Welcome back to music class! Alright, for my older 3rd through 5th graders, today's lesson we're going to be going through and learning about the Woodwind family. You're going to be clicking through lots of the videos to learn about the different instruments from the Woodwind family. You are allowed to watch any or as many as you need. Feel free to jump around and look and investigate the instruments that pique your interest. But first thing that you need to understand for a woodwind family is that the woodwind's all based around some sort of rule. And it's basically a tube has a vibration inside of it, and the longer or larger the tube is, the lower the note gets. So it's really confusing for a lot of people because they start to think that woodwind instruments mean it has to be made out of wood. And that's just not even close to correct. Woodwind instruments were named woodwind instruments because a long time ago, we're talking hundreds if not thousands of years ago, when woodwinds were first being created, wood was the easiest medium, the easiest tool and material for us to build woodwind instruments out of. From then, everything has evolved in modern day times for us to make woodwind instruments out of all sorts of stuff. It's basically just a tube that you blow through. A tube. A tube? Tube. Oh, yeah. Tube. Tube. Tubular. Now, because tubes are made in different shapes, different sizes, different materials, we get different instruments from all over the world that look completely different. When we look at woodwind instruments, the first thing that comes to mind for a lot of elementary kids that we don't teach at this school is called a recorder. Now, recorders are shaped like this. They're cheap, they're plastic, and to be honest, they don't sound great. But they are very affordable, so many schools across the country will use recorders to teach kids how to play. A recorder uses the fundamental of a whistle tone. Essentially, at the front of the instrument, air is made to split, just like we did with our bottle. On this instrument, when we split the air breaks apart, and we have a different tube that is set in different lengths, so we get different notes. Now, because air is able to split and create different tones, different countries and different cultures from around the world have created recorder-like instruments. Not even joking, I have many, many different types of recorder-like instruments. These are all basically whistle-based instruments, where at the front of the instrument, it is set to separate the air with a whistle, and then as the tube gets longer, the notes get lower. The notes get lower because the tube gets longer? Well, does that mean we can make the same instrument in different sizes? Yeah. This is called series, and many instruments, like the recorder, were built in series back in the medieval times and the early Renaissance. These instruments became popular around the world because you could make the same instrument basically bigger, and you would be able to create the same patterns to teach your musicians faster and be able to play the same song. Essentially, because it's the same instrument working with the same pattern, we just use the different fingering lengths to make the instrument longer and therefore make the notes lower. But if changing the length of the notes of the tube makes the note lower, do we have to have a static singular length of tube? Nope. We can start off with an instrument called a slide whistle. As you see at the top, we have a whistle with a plunger at the bottom. This changes the overall length of the bottle. Think of it like the water bottle from before. When we had the water bottle, as I was playing in the top, the air would vibrate from the top of the bottle to the bottom of the bottle. Listen to it. But science tells us that if we change the length, you can hear that the note changes. Yeah. Because of that, we can use science to be able to change the tone and the pitch to be able to play individual notes. Even furthermore, the shape doesn't have to be pipe-shaped. Many cultures from around the world have experimented with changing the shape of the instrument to make it more comfortable or more interesting or unique. This instrument is called an ocarina. Traditionally, you'll find these in the Philippines and Polynesian countries throughout the Pacific. They're used in video games and TV and different sounds, but it's played an awful lot like a recorder. And if you notice, my fingers are going to make the same shapes as what I did with the recorder, but the notes are going to be completely different. Now, I personally think the sound quality of the ocarina is far more pleasant and like I can listen to that for hours on end. These run about $20 to $25 for an ocarina. A recorder is about $5. And personally, I think these instruments give you a lot more to be able to learn how to play, and much faster to be able to play full pieces of music than a recorder. And this is something that your families can listen to for longer than a recorder. So today we're going to go through and we're going to experiment with some of the instruments from the actual orchestra. When we look at instruments like the flute, obviously it's a metal instrument, but the rules still apply. When you saw me play the bottle, the sound works the same. Now, as a kid, I hurt my lip. That's why I don't teach band instruments. See how I whistle on one side? That means whenever I go to play a woodwind instrument, I'm broken. I can't get the sound quality to be able to make what's called the embouchure. Your embouchure is your mouth shape. So for me, creating the right sound quality out of my mouth is very, very difficult. That's why I'm not a band director. I'm a choir director. However, I can get there. Any band director will tell you the way that I'm holding this instrument and playing it, totally wrong. Don't copy me. But you get the idea. Flutes are worked by using mechanisms with the little lines here that change the length of the instrument. And as you learned before, the longer the tone, the longer the tube, the lower the note. The second category for the actual instruments of the orchestra is reeded instruments. So when we look at reeded instruments, they will all have one of these little guys, a reed. It's a tiny little piece of wood that vibrates against the instrument. Now, the only thing about the reeds is that you have to keep them wet for them to be able to vibrate. How do you keep it wet? Oh, you drop it in water. Nope. Do you always have a glass of water walking around the stage with you or in your performance places? Nope. So, honest truth, most players will just stick it in their mouth. Yeah, it can get very loud. So, when we cause that note to vibrate, it's essentially flapping up against the mouthpiece, and that's what creates our vibration. I put it on top of my bottom lip and allow it to vibrate by flapping against the bottom of the instrument. From there, the vibrations travel into the tube. Where'd my clarinet go? Haha! That's what I get for moving things. From there, we put it onto the end of our instrument, and you'll see with a clarinet, just like the rest of the woodwind family, there are mechanisms just like our flute. Those allow us to reach holes that are further up than we would naturally be able to reach. So while I'm playing, I can adjust those notes using my hands in a comfortable position without trying to stretch to the top and the bottom of the instrument. And a clarinet's not that long. When we compare this to bigger instruments like the bassoon, obviously those instruments, if we were to stretch it out and not have the curve and the loops in them, those go for well over 10 feet. Some of them, like the contrabassoon, can be 16 to 20 feet long. Take a quick listen. Can't get the bottom note. As you see, my embouchure struggles for Mr. Santoyo, so that means that as I play, the lower the notes get, it's harder for me to get the vibrations. But I can get basic songs. For today, you're going to go through and explore the rest of the woodwind instruments, and feel free to click on as many videos as you need to be able to learn how they sound, how they're created, and what they're made out of. Thank you very much. We hope you enjoy.